listening to Tough Tiger Talk Flash Report.
All right, shout out to the Tough Tiger Talk Nation. Shout out to the Tough Tiger Talk Nation. Big Q in here representing the Tough Tiger Talk Nation. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Feel free to share the show on your social media feed. We are here with this episode of Tough Tiger Talk. And in this one, man, we'll be talking about several topics, including this one. 11 former LSU players earn invites to go to the 2026 NFL Combine. We in this thing, man. LSU consistently put some of the best players in the NFL over years, like Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, some of the best, and that continues. The Tigers are always well represented in the draft, and at the NFL Scouting Combine, it will be no different this year. The NFL released a list with more than 300 players invited to the Combine. Here are all the LSU players that are heading to Indianapolis. Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback, Aaron Anderson and Barron Brown, the wide receivers Chris Hilton Jr. and Xavier Thomas. Those are guys. Bauer Sharp, the fantastic tight end we had, and defensive lineman Patrick Payton and Jack Pyburn are also headed. Linebacker Harold Perkins Jr. and defensive backs Mansour Delaney and A.J. Halsey. So we see some of our better players defensively and some of our game changers on the offensive side headed to the next level. So the top LSU prospect is Delaney. He also looked like a surefire first round pick, a top 10 pick, with most NFL draft analysts expecting him to go anywhere between 10 and 15. Heading into last year, Nussmeier was looking as an intriguing quarterback option, but looked like he might fall a bit. But then again, you never know with the quarterbacks in the NFL Combine, especially with a weak free agency for quarterbacks. There are going to be guys that's going to be reached upon. The interesting part about it is where Garrett Nussmeier fits. What round does he go in? A lot of people thinking at this current time between 3 and 4. Rounds 3 and 4, they think that's the magic spot for Garrett. We'll see how he performs at the LSU Pro Day and as well as the NFL Combine. That could help his stock rise or fall, because there's not a outside of Mendoza top pick. There'll be a guy you reach for, whether that's the quarterback Simpson from Alabama. Another interesting caveat to it is what happens with Trinidad Chambliss. Do the NCAA grant him his extra year or stand where they are and say, no, you're not getting that? If he loses his appeal, then he'll be forced into the draft, and he fastly will become the second best quarterback in that draft, behind Mendoza. So we'll see where all this falls. But indeed, the top guy there, Mansour Delaney, is listed as the best cornerback prospect in the NFL. So we'll see where that goes. Another interesting caveat is, where does Harold Perkins Jr. land? Is he a second round guy, a third round guy? Some people even have him fall into the 4th or 5th round. I don't particularly think that. I think his spot will be somewhere between second and the third round, somewhere late second into somewhere in the later third round. Somewhere in that range, I think Harold Perkins comes off the board. And we'll see. So anyway, that is some of the stuff we're talking about here. So shout out to our LSU players at the next level, man, and continued success for that squad going forward. All right, let's hit this next one. Shout out to LSU on Sports Illustrated. SEC rival emerging as top contender for prize LSU football running back. Y'all hit that like button as we keep this thing rolling. Lane Kiffin doing all that recruiting, man. Franklin Parish three-star running back Trey Martin continues his rise in the 2027 recruiting cycle, with programs across the country fighting for his commitment. Martin checks in as the number 3 rated running back in the Baton Rouge state, with a myriad of top schools battling for this offensive weapon, with the SEC scores galore entering the mix to try to land Martin. He's 6 feet, 185 pounds. But you had teams like Florida, Ole Miss, Florida State, Auburn, Houston, all these guys lining up. LSU enters the race for the hometown prospect October the 1st after making a call to the prize running back, with a scholarship then being put on the table by the old staff in Baton Rouge. But LSU running backs coach Kevin Smith has developed a relationship with Martin over the years after recruiting him to Ole Miss as a primary target. As you can see, Coach Kiffin was doing the running, man. Coach Kiffin hitting the ground, going to different places, meeting up with these guys to bring them to keep them home. Now he's a two-way stud where he plays both offense and defense. For Franklin Parrish, spending time as a safety position while on defense, he continues his rise as an SEC prospect. Across his sophomore year, he ran for over 380 yards on 28 carries while having 8 touchdowns. But the junior campaign, is where he really put the country on notice. After a strong offseason, his momentum being carried into the junior season in 2025, he blossomed to one of the fastest players in the 27 recruiting cycle. Coach Kiffin and the Tigers were put in pursuit with the program's head coach and running backs coach Kevin Smith making a trip to Winsboro, Louisiana last month for an in-person visit with Mr. Martin. According to Rivals, the Clemson Tide will host him on an official visit during the weekend on June the 5th, at the Alabama staff continuing chipping away at Louisiana native. Now, Martin called Alabama his number one in my recruitment in an interview with Rivals as LSU looks to make ground for the coveted Louisiana offensive player. So this is one of the things that we do as we continue to try to make sure that we don't lose any talent out of state to our rivals or SEC talent. It's difficult, but we do what we can do. And winning will help that as well. All right, let's keep it moving. Hit that like button. Elite LSU football running back impressing with major speed during off-season workouts, right? So we get into this article right here. We talk about this as LSU running back Harlem Berry remains the talk of the town, right? The number one running back in 2025 recruiting cycle, signed with the Tigers last December as a headliner in the program's class, where he made an impact to LSU. Now, across the true freshman season, he totaled almost 500 rushing yards on over 100 carries. He had 2 touchdowns, where his workload increased dramatically down the stretch of the season. But there were some concerns that Louisiana native could follow LSU running backs coach Frank Wilson to Ole Miss after accepting the gig with Pete Golden's staff last December. But he said, I built a great relationship with LSU running back Frank Wilson. Barry said last December, all the coaches at the other universities, I felt like they can get me where I need to be, but it was just the connection I had with Coach Frank. It was more than just football. But Harlem Berry, despite the transfer buzz, Barry made up his mind where he's set to take on an integral role in LSU's Lane Kiffin's offense for the upcoming year. There was speculation that Barry could test the portal, with running backs coach Frank Wilson headed to Ole Miss and running rumors of Rebels running back Quan Lacey possibly joining LSU. But Barry is dialed in. LSU has looked to take on duties as the lead back in 2026, where he's ready and preparing his body right for the right season, right, coming up the right way. Now Barry has reached the top speed of almost 22 miles per hour, but didn't stop there for LSU's running back room. Lane Kiffin and LSU retained Harlem Berry, and Caden Durham, both, putting together a dynamic 1-2 tandem. And you could talk about the speed that these guys reached. Barry hit a top speed almost 22 miles per hour. Durham reached 21 and a half. So that's crazy works, the speed these guys have. Caden Durham, who made the decision to opt out of the portal and return to LSU once Kiffin was hired, reached the top speed of 21 and a half. Running back tandem looks to be a big role. And that's the thing. These guys are going to be the bell cows. They're going to be the excellent tandem that Lane Kiffin uses in his wide open offense. And it's going to be fun watching Harlem Berry and LSU's offense take off. And of course, like I said, a big part of that will be how well the offensive line plays. And that'll be the major sticking point that we have to watch out for. We have to get that offensive line together. Y'all heard what Coach Kiffin said in that presser recently about having all of these players and then having to get them to play together the right way. That'll be instrumental. All right, former LSU football linebacker former linebacker joins LSU's coaching staff as well. So we talk about former LSU football linebacker Greg Penn III joined Lane Kiffin's staff as a defensive analyst. Right, and shout out to Matt Moscona mentioned this, that Penn was a 3-year starter at LSU. He wore that number 18 in 2024. The jersey awarded to the player who best exemplifies what it means to be a teammate and a Tiger. Penn was a critical piece of LSU's defense during his time. Over 264 tackles, 17 and a half tackles for a loss, 5.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles over 4 seasons with the program. Now, he was given the George Wallace Memorial Award following his senior season, which is presented to the defensive player who distinguishes himself by performance, leadership, and commitment to the team. Penn tried to find a spot in the NFL this past season, but will now return to Baton Rouge to work under his former defensive coordinator, Blake Baker. Leadership and love for the program should be a major asset to the coaching staff that brought in more than 40 transfers. With all these new faces, Penn could hopefully help them unite under a common goal, getting LSU the national championship. Penn was never able to reach as a player. So shout out to Greg Penn III. If y'all remember Greg Penn, this guy was a baller for us. And being that he's still very young, close to the age of some of these players, it can help them, the communication side of it, when you have a guy like that can possibly come in and kind of help you out right there, right? All right. Anyway, let's keep going, man. We got a lot to talk about on Tough Tiger Talk. How about this one right here? This is an analysis of the latest intel around LSU's 2027 recruiting class. This is the thought. Shout out to Glenn West of the Go 24/7 Sports site covering LSU football. The 27 recruiting cycle is in the middle of a dead period, but that hasn't stopped news bubbling around LSU and its various pursuits around the class. Right now is the time you'll see official visits plans start to be announced for the spring. There are several prospects the Tigers are working very hard to get on campus multiple times over the course of spring and into the summer, when a lot of decisions start to be made. The majority of these targets are Louisiana products, and the purple and gold understand integral those relationships are to the program and to be a sustainable winner. Now, the high schools here has been great going to them and receiving the feedback I've always enjoyed over time coming here and recruiting. I used to always say it's like they love football. Everybody says that. That's what Lane Kiffin said. We had a long meeting this week about that and about finding the guys that are just those, on these lists that people put out with all the stars. I know over time that's always been great here, that aren't highly recruited, and a lot of those because they're really good players, but it's because of their makeup and how they're coached. So it's a great situation going on, as you can see. And this is what we've seen Lane Kiffin and various other articles talk about, him getting out there and recruiting players from all over the state. We've seen him in New Orleans. We've seen him in Winsboro. We've seen him all over the state of Louisiana going to find talent. And he's built a hell of a class this year in terms of picking up talent. But 2027, man, that will be something, because he's slotted to be here for 7 years. So having a strong 26 class, building with 2027 class will help open up a lot of stuff here. And all he has to do, and I know it sounds simple, is, you got to win games. You have to win. And the fastest Coach Kiffin can start winning, and he's built a hell of a team here, man, to be honest with you. The fastest he can get to winning, the easier the recruiting becomes. But anyway, let's take a look at the LSU football commits right here. About 24/7, these some of the guys that we talk about for the 27th cycle. That's overall ranked 29th. Is still building the class right now. These are some of the guys, right, that committed. Jaden Bryant, the edge rusher, 6'3", 245, and Peyton Houston, who's the quarterback, 5'10", 200 pounds, are some of the recent commits to the 2025 class. So there's a lot of prospects that LSU's reaching to work out off, and they have offers. You can see people that they offered scholarships. You can see Elijah Havens right here on this list, and he's a guy that they're going to go back and try to recruit. And you see he's still looking at 16 other commitments, and these are some other people right here. You can see Colt Nussmeier is on the list. We talked about Peyton Houston and a few these other quarterbacks. You see some of the running backs here that they offered scholarships to. We talked about Trey Martin recently. Jaden Miles is another guy, and this will start to heat up as we get into the recruiting class cycle, to be honest with you. So a lot of people have been offered stuff, and for the 2027 class, and it's only a matter of time before you start seeing some of these guys pick where they want to go. But it's a bunch of guys that we're looking at as potential players for the 2027 cycle. Let's just be real about that, right? All right, anyway, let's move on to the next one, man. This is the final one I got for you guys right here. This is a list of upcoming schedule right here. This is the offseason LSU football schedule for your thinking right here, February the 23rd through March the 2nd of 2026. NFL Scouting Combine, top LSU prospects evaluated in Indianapolis. On March the 8th of 2026, spring practice starts, expected start of the 15 practice spring session. So we'll be looking out for that 15 practices from starting March the 8th. right? Then March the 9th through the 13th, you have spring break, which will be the university-wide break. Team typically pauses from the 9th to the 13th. Then they fire back up. March the 26th is the LSU Pro Day. NFL scouts visit Baton Rouge to evaluate draft eligible Tigers we talked about earlier in the broadcast. Next, the following month, April the 12th, is the spring game. That's the annual National L Club spring game at Tiger Stadium. We'll see there. April the 16th, 4 days later, that will be the transfer portal opens. The spring window for portals opens right there. So you'll have the spring transfer portal opening. What kind of damage could we do when the spring portal opens? And then, of course, September the 5th will be the 2026 season opener against Clemson in Death Valley. So that's a couple of the ones that you really need to be kind of looking out for. That's the off-season schedule. We got a lot going on, but this is our schedule going into the off-season, right? More of the off-season, should I say. But anyway, that's what I got for y'all today. What do you guys think? Feel free to chime in the comment section. Let me know how you guys feel about some of the stuff that Lane Kiffin is doing in the 2027 recruiting cycle and how could it better benefit our squad. And before we leave, let me kind of play this for you guys right here. And this is from CBS giving you a little breakdown, ball down on their people. Here we go.
No more rumor mill. The CFB coaching carousel was wild, but it is set. I know, famous last words. Let's assume it actually is, though. Our friend John Talty is looking at these first-year coaches and defining what success means for each one of them. So let's welcome in Talty to walk us through it. And starting with LSU, because that is definitely who I was referencing in the intro there in terms of the crazy coaching carousel, landing with Lane Kiffin coming off that 7-6 season. They had a losing record in SEC play. So, Talty, what do we consider success for year one under Lane Kiffin?
Yeah, I think Lane Kiffin has the highest expectations surrounding him. And I think it's playoff, really, because if you look at not only just kind of the circumstances of him leaving a playoff team at Ole Miss to come to LSU, you do that to try to win national championships, which clearly Lane thinks he's capable of doing in Baton Rouge. But you just look at what they did from a transfer portal perspective, adding guys like Sam Leavitt from Arizona State, Jordan Seaton from Colorado. I mean, they have heavily invested in this roster. It's one of the most expensive rosters, from what I've been told, in the country. And with that comes, expectations. So I think that there will be a lot of kind of pressure that comes with that. But I think Lane, you're really looking at him to make the playoff, given the talent that he has, and also just the coaching staff he's been able to put together, keeping Blake Baker and then also bringing someone like Charlie Weiss Jr. with him from Ole Miss.
What you guys think about that? I mentioned not much of a honeymoon period left in terms of when you talk about Lane Kiffin, and he's right. It is an expensive team. They spent a lot of money on him, and he said as much that I gotta earn it, which means what we do now is what we always do as LSU. We have to win. We got to put it together. So I don't expect much of a honeymoon period for Lane Kiffin, so to speak. I think he hits the ground running. That's why he's doing what he's doing. All these players here, it's a commitment to winning and getting to the college football playoff. That's the number one thing. Getting into the playoffs is what he is aiming to do. That's the first and foremost. And we'll see how it goes moving forward, man. But yeah, no doubt about it. Definitely the pressure is on him to compete right away. So anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. By all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feed. Big Q representing the Tough Tiger Talk Nation, man. Fill in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think about this. Lane Kiffin recruiting in 2027, the upcoming periods that we have. What do you think about the Tigers in the draft? All of that, fill in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel. With that being said, I'm going to get on up out of here. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to holler at you on the next one. Much love, peace, and go Tigers.
Subscribe to the Tough Tiger Talk channel and stay up to date for all things LSU football.
Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with the WhoDatDaily.com. your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit the WhoDatDaily.com and never miss what matters most to Who Dat Nation.
Welcome to the Pro Shop, where we create authentic NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping the Pro Shop, the Pel Shop, or the Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below or in the chat.